September 26th.
I'm not sure about the time. And it's Miami, Florida.
Okay, September 26th. So, you've got a stellium in Aries, which I think we've talked about before. Sun, Mercury, Venus, all in Aries and all in the 8th house. Now, her sun, I'm not going to punch her chart up, but I can tell you right now that her sun, 26, is opposite your sun. So you have a solar opposition. Now, there's this theory that opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some truth to that, but in astrology, oppositions aren't always the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing about her sun is that it shows up in the 2nd house, which is your house of like material possessions and values and grounding. And in some ways, you're being connected to her or being attracted to this woman actually grounds you. It gives you a sense of being in the world.
Yeah.
Is that a siren?
Yes, I'm outside.
Okay. So that it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have a grounding influence in your life. But when we look at, as an astrologer, when I look at synastry and matching somebody up with a harmonic sign, generally speaking, I look for connections in the 5th house or the 7th house, occasionally the 4th house, sometimes the 1st house. But that's where I kind of look to see where those planets are lining up. And I also like to look, obviously, in sympathetic elements like fire to fire or air to fire. So you have the air to fire, but it's an opposition. And the one thing that you can be in a friendship with oppositions, and it's not always that challenging. But in close quarters, when you're in a relationship with somebody and you're in opposition mode, arguments tend to happen easier. People tend to separate from common ground quicker when there's oppositions. So the tendency to argue more is kind of more in play with oppositions.
Right.
The other thing is that you have all these planets in Aries, and they're in the 8th house. So you're kind of, in your own way, a formidable personality, and those planets can be intense, and certainly in some instances quite probing in wanting to know what's going on in life, what's going on in other people's lives. There's a quality to those planets in your chart. If you're dealing with somebody who is really surface oriented, right? And I don't want to use the word superficial, but they skim along on the surface of things, that they may not be deep enough for you, and you could push them away if you want to go deeper, or you want to ask them about what they're doing, who they're seeing, where their head is at, where their heart is at. I mean, that is part and parcel of those planets in the 8th house. So you have to ask yourself, and I don't want to give Libras a bad rap because I got a lot of Libra in my chart, but sometimes Libras can be a little superficial.
Right.
They're into beauty, they're into harmony, they're into balance, they're into symmetry. I had a Libra girlfriend one time, and she lived to do entertaining at home and house parties, and fixing the house up with Christmas decorations and holidays. She was good at it. It gave her an outlet for a lot of her Libran stuff. But in many ways, Librans just don't want to go. A lot of times they don't want to go deeper. They want to kind of stay on the surface. So I would say that there's a level of attraction with the opposition. Is it enough to last a lifetime? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Right. Right. Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Now I don't want to dissuade you from having a relationship, because there are signs where couples are in opposition, and they can have very long relationships, but many instances the connection can be tempestuous. And sometimes it's the opposition that will hold. The one thing I'll say about the opposition, and then I'll move on to your astrocartography. The one thing that you can do with somebody that you have an opposite angle with in your chart is to find a third party to team up against, because now you've gotten into a point of triangulation, and now you're taking your energy and their energy and you're putting it into another position. So one of the things that could be good for people with a triangulation is having a business together or being a part of a cause. So let's say you're an Aries, she's a Libra, and you both are part of this like 99% movement, right? Now all of a sudden you've got the 1%ers in your bullseye, in your scope. So now you triangulated and you have this third party that you can take your opposition energy and channel it against. So sometimes when you'll see people with oppositions in their chart, you'll see them triangulate against other people in their environments. And those people will become the scapegoats for their relating. They'll say, oh, your brother Charlie, what a dick, and you'll say, yeah, he can be a real dick, and maybe he pissed you off. Now all of a sudden, whatever issues are happening for you between the two of you, they get triangulated and pointed outside of the relationship. And that's how some people with oppositions operate. So instead of arguing and taking on their own stuff, they'll find somebody else to take on, and that way they'll keep peace in their own lives. Now that can work again if the third party is something that's constructive, right?
Right.
Okay. So is there a place in the world you want to look at?
What about Georgia? I was thinking about moving to Georgia.
Okay, so let's look at Georgia for you. So you've got Georgia on your mind, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. Okay, so here we go. Now, what's interesting is, again, the whole concept with astrocartography is your chart is splayed across the world. So we're dealing with longitude and latitude, which is kind of why I played that song. So the longitudinal line for you, and it's clearly a line, and because if you were to take a protractor and draw a line sort of straight up from Miami, it would be parallel. It would be parallel. It would be along the same line. It would be parallel longitudinally with Charleston, right? And Charleston is right across from Atlanta. And this IC line, Saturn on the IC, runs right on the eastern side of Atlanta and literally runs almost through Miami. It's just to the west of Miami. So the IC line is the Imamcelli. The Imamcelli is the home, your home. It's like the fourth house, okay? You've got Saturn running right down this line. Not always the best place to live.
Right, okay.
So moving to Atlanta would not necessarily change very much. You would still have this line. I'll read you the description for Atlanta, just that line. So this is the textbook definition of Saturn on the IC. Along this line, you are required to take a closer look at your relationship with your family, but also at your origins in general. Difficulties you encounter here can lead you to reassess your duties and your responsibilities towards your family, but also to look after your own interests. Relations to your parents play a central role, and you may feel distant towards members of your family. You may want to live according to your own rules. If you are a parent yourself, there could be some controversy about raising children. You may want to establish dependence in your home life and clear arrangements and responsibilities for all family members. You might be tempted to take all responsibility, but is more helpful to recognize when it is time to have someone else take over. This is a place where you get plenty of opportunity to deal with your emotions. Your psychic and emotional states may exhibit tension. You may feel unsure, but this is a clear sign that you have to start dealing with these feelings and strive for understanding. A psychotherapy could be successful. Try to stabilize your emotional state to overcome your emotional problems. This will have a positive effect not only on your personal, but on your professional life. Having property could become an important issue here. Maybe you want to buy your own home and thus stabilize your position. You may also experience this kind of security has a price. Unpleasant surprises could come in the form of necessary repairs or outstanding debts. Now, essentially what that means, James, is that this is a place, I mean, you've been in Miami all your life, right?
Right.
That is clearly a Saturn IC experience, longevity. You know, I mean, theoretically, you could live in Miami all your life with Saturn on your IC. And Atlanta would not necessarily be that different because, they're all on that same line. Now, I'll tell you some other places for you, which might be maybe a little more interesting, if you're open to that.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Okay.
Some kind of Saturn energy.
So one of the areas that holds a great deal of promise is actually from where I'm calling you from, which is California.
Oh, okay.
In California, your sun, midheaven, goes right off the coast of California, and let me see how far that is because it does. Let's see. So you've got Mercury on your midheaven in California, and let's see what other details. Crossing Sun Mercury, which is good, and so California would be a much livelier place for you.
Oh.
And it would be a place where you could you could find a job here pretty easily. Venus is here. It's off the West Coast. You're still going to get some of that vibration, but California tends to be pretty promising. Your Jupiter on your descendant runs right through Montana, Salt Lake City, just to the west of El Paso, Santa Fe. So that Rocky Mountain region is also a very good place for you. And then you've got a very interesting. It's not an energy that I would spend a lot of time around. Pluto on your IC and Mars on your midheaven go right down the center of the country. We're talking Dallas, Oklahoma City. That's an area I'm not sure I would spend a lot of time. But
okay.
If you want to be a lifer, you're in the right place. If you want to have have a relationship and meet really cool people, that Jupiter on the descendant line is very good. So a place like Santa Fe would be really good for you. And then if you want to you communicate and write and teach and be really kind of active and maybe even get involved in PR or something like that, California would be a good place.
Oh, okay. And any other option after that would probably out of the country.
I would say out of the country. Maybe I'll do one more location here for the world. Let's do the world. But I'm going to tell you your absolute best place. Ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go. I'm going to see if I can figure it out very quickly. I would say that it would be